Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man and to week 4 of Impact Wrestling 2012, and this week is the go home week to Genesis, our first pay-per-view of this new era, and we've got a couple of matches that were pre-announced last week. AJ Styles, Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe will face the New Age of Honor's Austin Aries and the American Wolves in our main event, and Christopher Daniels will face Tyler Black. Daniels having defeated Tyler Black in the last ever match in TNA history, that big 5-on-5 match. Can Black get his win back, or will it be another big win for Christopher Daniels? We'll find out as those two huge matches bookend the show. We also have Samoa Joe set to call out the Icon Sting 3 days before Sting challenges CM Punk for the Impact World Championship. So it's another big packed show with some other great matches on there as well. So let's go straight into it, and we kick off with that opening match. And it's a very good way to kick off the show, actually. An 82, very, very good. A 64 from Christopher Daniels, but Tyler Black with an impressive 77, and he's the one who picks up the win. It's 14 minutes and 16. It's a completely fairly contested back and forth match, but with a God's last gift, Tyler Black is able to get his win back. He was pinned by Daniels, as I said, in that 5-on-5. He comes out of the opening match standing tall. We get the show off to a strong start and get the crowd buzzing, so absolutely no complaints there. Following the match, Tyler Black has his arm raised in the ring, and the commentators put over that whether you like him or not, Black won that match without any help and completely deserved the win. This sentiment appears to be shared by Christopher Daniels, who returns to his feet and, despite not liking the man, offers a hand of respect to Tyler, having been at odds for a very long time. This moment does catch Tyler a little bit off guard, and as he appears ready to actually accept the gesture, Daniels is jumped from behind by Austin Aries. Aries lays into the Fortune member, only to be shoved away by Tyler Black, who is sick and tired of this man getting involved in his business. An intense stare down between the two prominent members of the New Age of Honor ensues. In some ways, in terms of in-ring guys, these are the two leaders of that group. Aries tells Tyler that this Sunday is his last chance. The New Age Originals aren't booked for that pay-per-view, and Aries has already made it clear that he expects them to have the back of those members who are, namely Austin Aries and the American Wolves. Tyler Black is not happy with this. The tensions have been raised week after week after week, and it's no surprise to see them continue here after Aries gets involved in something that he has no real business getting involved in. In the back, this fallout continues as Steve Corino and the American Wolves are seen to have been confronted by Beer Money and Frankie Kazarian in the back. They couldn't get to the ring, or didn't need to, as Tyler Black stopped the attack himself, but they're finding the other guys of the New Age of Honor, and it looks as though things are going to spill over into violence until the Kings of Wrestling step up, seemingly backing up their New Age of Honor stablemates when they need them the most. It's been a little bit will they, won't they, but it looks like Chris and Claudio have their cohorts back. Chris Hero suggests that Fortune back down, and outnumbered, they decide that they're better to deal with this in the ring, telling any three members of this group that they'll fight them anytime. They just have to name when they want that to go down. Steve Corino is pleased with the intervention of the Kings of Wrestling, thanking them for coming to their senses, even if Tyler Black hasn't. He says that if leaving Black behind is what it takes to move them all forward together as one unit, then so be it. This isn't quite what Chris Hero had in mind. He looks to Castagnoli as Corino saying this, before asking him what he just said. He seems offended by the suggestion that they can move forward without Tyler Black. Corino shrugs, saying that sooner or later somebody is going to have to make some very tough decisions about the future of this group. So another segment furthering the fractions within the New Age of Honor and continuing the rivalry that the forefathers have with that group. We then come back to see Samoa Joe shown pacing in the rafters, and he claims that he is looking for Sting. Samoa Joe says that Sting has nowhere to run and nowhere to hide, and he's going to search every inch of this arena until he finds him. Joe then walks off, and we return to the commentary position. Mauro and Taz questioning Samoa Joe's claimed motive of wanting to talk with Sting just 3 days before the Icon challenges CM Punk for the Impact World Championship at Genesis. It's one to follow because, of course, that's not the end of this story for the night. Sarita then defeats Brooke in 5 minutes and 26 with a double underhook powerbomb. She is focused, she is determined, and of course, all that anger does come out on Brooke in a pretty decisive one-sided match. She wants Hamada at the pay-per-view, but has yet to hear a response. Sarita is joined in the ring by Taylor Wilde after the match, and she takes a microphone, and that's exactly what she's looking for. She wants Hamada to come out and let her know whether this match is on. Sarita says that she knows Hamada is in action later tonight, and if she doesn't get the answer that she wants right now, then she'll be coming out to get one later. Out from the back, Larry Sweeney makes an appearance, to the confusion of pretty much everybody. Sweeney explains once he's in the ring that he has contacts back in Japan, as we know from his time as the American-based agent of Kazuchika Okada, and he got a call last week from those contacts asking if he could help Hamada deal with a couple of nuisances. Sweeney says that Hamada wants nothing more to do with either of these women. She'd like nothing more than to put them behind her and continue her pursuit of the Knockouts Championship, but if being in the ring with either of them is what gets her there, she's more than happy to face Sarita at Genesis and Taylor Wilde at any point in the future. However, if either of them even attempt to lay a hand on Hamada, or him for that matter, before Genesis, then the match simply doesn't happen. And if Taylor ever wants that match with Hamada in the future, the same rule applies to her. The smug Sweeney then leaves with a smile on his face while reminding viewers to stay tuned for Hamada's match later tonight, so it might seem a little bit random for Sweeney to come out. Essentially, Hamada is in storylines now and he's being used more prominently. She needs a mouthpiece, but I didn't want to sort of having a straightforward manager because I couldn't see anybody on the roster who I felt worked in that role. That might change down the line if we find the right person or the right dynamic, but for now, when necessary, Sweeney's going to slip into that role, given that we've previously established that he does have those links to Japan. We then get a interview with American Wolves and Austin Aries ahead of tonight's 6-man tag team main event. JB is supposed to be there, but I suppose we can just say that this is a promo instead. Aries says that he's going to do something a little bit out of character right now, as he puts over the abilities of AJ Styles, Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe. Tonight, however, is going to be a lesson in the power of a unit against 3 individuals. That same lesson will be learned when the undefeatable American Wolves beat Danielson and Wolfe this Sunday. The greatest tag team in the world and the greatest man that ever lived together are the greatest trio in professional wrestling history, and it's not even close. Tonight, they proudly represent the New Age of Honor and give their opponents a preview of what they can expect at Genesis, so a fairly straightforward promo, just hyping themselves up and running down their opponents. It's decent, but unfortunately it loses heat to a couple of storylines, so, not quite what we wanted. We go into the third match of the first hour, Kevin Steen defeating Chris Sabin in 13 minutes and 37 by pinfall, illegally using the ropes for leverage, or more likely the low blow which precedes the package pile driver. Paul London and Alex Shelley at ringside, so a minor distraction gives that opening for him to do that, and it is a victory for Steen, albeit not cleanly. He gets a 72, an underwhelming 60 from Chris Sabin, but it's because as part of our product now, we have to have one Wild Brawl, Mayhem or Car Crash match on the show, and I didn't see any others that fit like this, so maybe the way this match goes as a Wild Brawl does even more play into the hands of Kevin Steen, and he does come out with a victory. On the pay-per-view, we'll expect a much better rating from Chris Sabin, and I think that is what we'll get. After the match, having picked up a typically controversial victory, Kevin Steen leaves the ring and heads up the ramp with his partner Paul London. Chris Sabin, of course, should be on screen there as Alex Shelley joins him in the ring, furious at the actions of Kevin Steen. The commentators point out that it can hardly be a surprise that Steen used the tactics that he used. He pretty much always cheats to win, even when he doesn't need to, and the Motor City Machine Guns need to plan for that if they are to stand a chance of defeating this newly formed team or this less experienced team on Sunday. Once at the top of the ramp, Kevin Steen sends a message to the men in the ring. He says that this started with them kicking Chris Sabin while he was down, something that they'll never tire of doing, and on Sunday they're going to do exactly the same. Paul London says that nobody knows tag team wrestling like he does, and what he sees in the ring is a tag team that this division has passed by. When they beat the Motor City Machine Guns on Sunday, Steen and London are coming for the Impact World Tag Team Championships, whether that's the American Wolves or whether it's Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe. Paul London not doing well off script, while Steen does do well, losing heat to the storyline after presumably the match before added heat to it, but I still think that 71 is good for what is essentially an upper mid-card storyline. Before we go into the break, at the end of the first hour of the show, Samoa Joe is shown in the back and he is still looking for Sting, calling out for the Icon to show his face. Jeremy Borash approaches Joe looking for word from him, but he just looks annoyed to have had his search interrupted. Joe tells JB that he searched every single inch of this building, which can only mean one thing: Sting is actively avoiding him. The Icon is hiding. Samoa Joe then sends a direct message to the Impact World Championship number one contender, saying that he is heading to the ring next. If Sting doesn't want to see himself exposed as a coward, then he'll meet Joe face to face. We come back for a decent segment. Would have hoped for better for this because this is the, shall we say, go home segment for the Impact World Championship match. Samoa Joe comes to the ring and he says that if Sting is stepping into the ring for an Impact World Championship match at Genesis, then the least he can do is show his face in this ring here tonight. Sting comes out and is kind of amused by what Samoa Joe's getting at. The last couple of weeks he's been searching for him. Sting claims that he's not been hiding anywhere, but when he reaches the bottom of the ramp, the ulterior motive becomes clear as Sting is jumped from behind by CM Punk, who takes him down with a shot to the back of the head using the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, which Sting returned to Punk last week. Sting, of course, is instantly knocked out, completely caught off guard, and is dragged into the ring by CM Punk. Punk sort of hands over Sting to Joe, who wraps his arm around the neck of Sting in the Coquina clutch position as Punk tosses the TNA title to the ground with the usual disrespect. CM Punk leaves the ring and grabs a sledgehammer from underneath the apron, while Joe warns that if anybody comes out, Sting's skull will be smashed open by the time they reach the ring. So there's no chance of anybody coming out and saving Sting here, because if they try it, then there's no Impact World Championship match this Sunday. Punk hands the hammer to Samoa Joe and holds Sting in position. Punk tells Joe to destroy the TNA title with the hammer, but Joe hesitates. This is a title that he's previously held, a company which he did represent for a very, very long time, and Joe looks like he's considering it. He's got the pressure from Punk to do it, but at the same time you can see the battered Sting who is being held up by CM Punk now, and he can't quite bring himself to do it. Eventually, Punk lets go of Sting and gets into the face of Samoa Joe, demanding that he does it. But Joe instead gives Punk the hammer, so it's not that he's going to try and stop Punk from doing this. He just doesn't want to be the one who bashes in the centre plate of the World Heavyweight Championship that he's previously held. While Punk looks to finish the job himself, the Icon Sting rises up behind him, hopefully getting a good shot of this where CM Punk is completely oblivious, but hopefully the crowd going wild. Sting hits a Scorpion Death Drop to the Impact World Champion and stands tall. He's ready for this Sunday's Impact World Championship match. Despite taking obviously a lot of damage from that title shot to the head, he has got one back over on CM Punk, and we'll see how he manages at the pay-per-view. Like I said, unfortunately not that good of a segment. Sting struggling when going off script, and there wasn't that much talking in the segment, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. CM Punk, the star of the show, and hopefully he can carry Sting to a great match this Sunday. We then go into the fourth match of the night, or come back to the fourth match of the night, and it's again Hamada dominating and decisively defeating Hannah Blossom. It's those kicks to the head that take her opponent out, but then Hamada applies some sort of submission hold, and the referee immediately is like, there's no chance that she's even going to be able to respond to this. The match is won very, very easily. Hamada probably could have won the match in a minute, but she takes that little bit of extra time. She seems to be enjoying herself, and while it's not that good of a match, it's just about building Hamada up. The match cooling the crowd a little, and the post-match segment isn't that much better. It's just about putting over that she is clearly ready for this Sunday's Genesis. The commentator is saying we haven't seen this Hamada, at least not for a very, very long time, and Sarita is up against a really, really serious challenge this Sunday. As established earlier in the night though, neither of them can come out and have any interaction with her before the pay-per-view, so the next time we see any physicality, it will be at Genesis. Responding to the words of Austin Aries earlier, AJ Styles, Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe are interviewed ahead of the main event, and it's AJ Styles who takes the lead, responding to his Genesis opponent Austin Aries. Styles says that Aries may be right when he says that they're a better unit than the three of them, but the last time that AJ, Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe teamed up, Aries might remember that his New Age of Honor stablemates Tyler Black and the Kings of Wrestling were defeated by the three of them. Not many teams can say that they've defeated that New Age original trio, and AJ knows Aries remembers them doing that because he chose to get himself involved, and well, things have been going badly for the New Age of Honor ever since then. That was pretty much one of the early moments where Tyler Black had told Austin Aries not to get involved. He still got involved, and it was that cost the New Age Originals that match, and it was really the seed that we've seen grow into this much bigger thing. Bryan Danielson and Desmond will follow this up, with Bryan pointing out that the only time that these three men have teamed before, they were victorious, as AJ said. The same can't be said for their opponents. Austin Aries and the American Wolves have teamed up once before, and they were the ones on the losing side. Wolfe adds that Bryan beat Eddie Edwards 2 weeks ago, and he beat Davey Richards last week. Everything seems to be pointing in one direction for Genesis, and he thinks it's going to be exactly the same tonight. The fans are going to see a preview of what to expect at the pay-per-view when AJ, Bryan and Wolfe defeat the New Age of Honor. So again, losing heat to storylines, which is not what we want to do. In fact, it's the exact opposite of the aim of a go-home show, but still all three guys doing pretty well, or Wolfe and AJ getting positive notes there. A 70 average backstage segment. Creed and Dutt then defeat Team Canada when Sonjay Dutt pins Sean Spears with a moonsault double foot stomp. An okay match. Sonjay Dutt with a encouraging performance ahead of his X Division Championship match this Sunday. A 68 is good, and I think El Generico should be able to just about match that, and we should get a decent high spots match. But that's what it was about, really, showcasing Dutt. Creed's return to action after an injury, and Team Canada not very impressive as Scott D'Amore at ringside watches on, as does Eric Young. And after the match, Eric is absolutely furious to see yet another defeat. He's joined Team Canada thinking he could change their fortunes, but that hasn't really been what we've seen. While Team Canada roll to the outside, EY watches the two men celebrate and decides we're going to have to go back in there. He orders Spears and Dukes to follow him, and they jump the victors from behind as they're on the turnbuckles. Team Canada are laying into Creed and Dutt, and EY is indicating, as he did a couple of months ago with Creed, he wants to pile drive Sonjay on the apron and take him out of Sunday's match. He's that bitter and angry that he wants to spoil the pay-per-view. Before this can happen, El Generico runs down to the ring and makes the save for Creed and for his challenger for Sunday. He clears the ring of Team Canada. Of course, the pure babyface that is El Generico, being a good guy and helping out his future opponent. Once it's just the three of them in the ring, El Generico has a little bit of a stare down with Sonjay Dutt as Creed watches on. El Generico will face Sonjay Dutt this Sunday at Genesis, defending his X Division Championship, as we've said. Not a good segment at all, and does lose heat to the storyline. So yeah, pretty much a theme of tonight's show. Hopefully the main event can get us some heat back. And again, it's not fantastic, this one either. As we return from the break, Gail Kim makes her way out from the back and promotes her match with Mickie James this Sunday. Gail says to Mickie once she's in the ring that while she is here to promote a pay-per-view match, of course, she admits that she has no bad words for a challenger. In fact, she's watched her since she arrived here, and she's been impressed to see somebody carry the torch in her absence for the Knockouts division. Gail Kim says that Mickie isn't the only one, but now she's back, and more importantly, Gail Kim has the title that she first won all those years ago back in her possession. Mickie was at top of the list of the women that she wanted to face. Mickie responds by saying that she appreciates the words and the feelings are mutual. Gail knows that. Gail being a knockout just feels right, and she's so delighted that she's back in this division. However, after the year Mickie's just had, she asks Gail to excuse her for being a little bit slow to trust somebody. James says that she's sure that the two of them are going to tear the house down at Genesis, but once the bell rings, she'll be treating Gail as just any other enemy. Kim wouldn't expect anything less, of course, and she offers the hand to Mickie James. So a very straightforward, respectful segment for these two. The commentators then promote, of course, this Sunday's pay-per-view, including that Knockouts Championship match, including the huge Impact World Championship match, and they do tell us that on Evolve, we're going to see the reaction to what CM Punk did. Kurt Angle and CM Punk in a little bit of an incident backstage, which will then play into the video package on the pay-per-view. But we're also going to show it and Evolve just to hopefully get some eyes on that show, because of course we've got some of the younger guys on there. Hopefully having them too will help it draw a rating. I don't know how much of a difference it'll make, but I do want to occasionally put some big segments on Evolve Wrestling to try and draw some eyes to it. We then go into a impressive main event. I'm happy with that, gaining heat to the storyline. So for all the damage we've done, hopefully we've built them back up. And before I talk about the match itself, look at those in-ring ratings. Desmond Wolfe 88, Bryan Danielson 93, AJ Styles 92, Eddie Edwards 83, Davey Richards 90 and Austin Aries 86. It's just a group of absolutely incredible wrestlers, and we've got another 5 or 6 who are equally as good as these. But we can see in this exceptional match is the new Age of Honor who defeat AJ Styles, Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe when Davey Richards gets a quick cradle on Desmond Wolfe. It's a chaotic main event, of course, all over the place. It breaks down with AJ Styles and Austin Aries pretty much hyper-focused on one another. Of course, they absolutely hate each other and they have their pay-per-view match coming up. So then by the last few minutes of the match, it's Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe versus the American Wolves. So an exact replica of what we're going to see at the pay-per-view, and the story we wanted to tell here is how good the American Wolves are when they are in that situation. It might be a 6-man tag, but when it came down to a 2-on-2, they were able to outmaneuver even the likes of Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe, the undisputed best tag team in the world, pick up the win, and they are joined eventually by Austin Aries in the ring. The American Wolves, though, are the focus, standing tall to end the show. These new Age of Honor members having picked up the win with no outside involvement. You can have no complaints if you're Bryan Danielson, Desmond Wolfe or AJ Styles. The commentator's putting over that whatever you think about these men, there is one thing that cannot be denied. When it's the two of them together in the ring, working the way that they do, they are almost unstoppable. This Sunday at Genesis, in the first pay-per-view of the Impact Wrestling era, Bryan Danielson and Desmond Wolfe will have to dig deep, deeper than they ever have as a tag team, to become the first duo to defeat the American Wolves. If such a thing is possible, they will leave as the Impact World Tag Team Champions. But a makeshift duo, as good as these two individuals are, the question going into this pay-per-view match is quite simply, are there any teams on the planet, whoever it is, able to defeat the American Wolves? They are an absolutely incredible team, and it's a decent episode, of course. Like I said last week, we raised the bar of expectation in the last few months of TNA, and it has dipped a little bit, but I think we're in for a very, very good pay-per-view that may buck this little downward trend, and then after that, hopefully we can continue to build. I'm personally really, really happy with that show. No complaints whatsoever. It started off strongly. There was a pretty good segment in the middle with Sting and Samoa Joe. I feel maybe I should have followed that up. Initially, I'd planned to have a promo in between the Gail Kim segment and the main event, where CM Punk just absolutely loses it and cuts a fired up promo backstage. I've changed that into the Evolve Wrestling segment, so hopefully if that gets a good rating, it will gain heat to the storyline, and we go in hot for Genesis. Before then, though, like I said, we do have Evolve Wrestling to book. And the show begins with that previously mentioned segment. We kick off with a recap of the Sting, Samoa Joe, CM Punk segment from Impact, and followed up with an angry promo from CM Punk. He doesn't know what Samoa Joe was thinking. Sting showed what a true coward he was, and he's just pissed off. The Impact World Champion just venting his frustrations. Luckily, we have a man in charge who is willing to confront him on those matters, and Kurt Angle tells CM Punk that he needs to calm down. He needs to leave the building because Sunday at Genesis, he has that huge match with Sting. So it's just one last little bit of promoting the pay-per-view. Angle wasn't on Impact Wrestling, but we open up, hopefully getting some viewers into the show, and I'll actually check after the show whether it does make any difference to the ratings to have these two, albeit only in a segment on the show. We then get Amazing Red and Low-Ki teaming up. Low-Ki recently has taken Amazing Red under his wing, albeit in a little bit of a tough love kind of way. He wants to see more edge from Amazing Red, and actually it's when Adam Cole hits a low blow and almost gets the win over Amazing Red that Low-Ki tags in. He's going to sort this out, and eventually with a Warriors Way on Kyle O'Reilly, he does pick up the win. So good news is a victory for Red and Low-Ki, but Low-Ki kind of had to step in and get the job done. It says there we had Adam Cole turn on Amazing Red. Obviously that doesn't make much sense other than in the fact that Adam Cole's been a babyface incorrectly, so I just wanted to get his turn done. Low-Ki head and shoulders above the rest with a 75, and it's a decent way to open up the show, I think. Again, another example of where we're going to use young talent like Future Shock, and they're just getting the chance to be in the ring with two established names from the roster, and hopefully that will make them better. Amazing Red and Low-Ki stand tall. Low-Ki, of course, making it clear to Amazing Red that's how you do it. Afterwards, we get a promo. It should only be Hernandez on screen there, but he's talking about his match tonight with D'Angelo Dinero for the Evolve Wrestling Championship. He wants singles gold and does give a little shout out to Amazing Red for his win in the opening contest. A really good match here, which, to be fair, was rated on Eye Candy, simply because I know it rates better in the game. Daphne with a 65, Daisy Hayes with a 54, and it is Daphne who cleanly defeats Daisy Hayes with a Frankensteiner, 6 minutes and 32 seconds. Apparently does its job of giving the crowd a breather, albeit I kind of expect it to be one of the better matches on the show. As Roxy looks to join her partner Daphne in the ring, she is jumped by Mischief on the outside, who is furious about Daisy Hayes losing. It then seems as though Mischief is going to go after Daphne as well, but we get a sort of standoff between the two, neither of them making the step, but they're locked eyes, and I think there's sort of some similarities between Daphne and Mischief in terms of their character, and I think we can build a little bit of an interesting storyline between these two teams, and we're just keeping it at a face-off here, and of course it'll develop as we go on. We then get a pretty good match as well. Jack Evans absolutely head and shoulders above everybody else, and the idea of this match is that it's a showcase of new talents. Jack Evans has just immediately put himself on the list of people who are going to be showing up again there, rather than just being a one-off. Kenny and Rocky doing okay, but it is Kenny who picks up the win, pinning Jesse Sorensen with a Kreutz Wrath. Jesse Sorensen, the weak link, he was just brought in as the fall guy really, and we just want the commentators to put over here that it's 4 guys who you might not necessarily know. They've all appeared before, but they've never been in prominent positions or been signed to the company, and it's about giving them the chance to show themselves off, ultimately try and get themselves a deal. Jack Evans will certainly be showing up again, that's for sure. A great guy to have in the X Division, I think. Kenny stands tall, having impressed in this new talent match. A good win for him, and afterwards we have Roderick Strong asked about the new talent. He's obviously somebody who's quite well established in the company now, but he says that he's impressed and he'd be happy to step in the ring with any of those 4 guys. His interview with SoCal Val is however cut off by Adam Pearce, who plays down those other guys that we've just seen. There's only one new talent that anybody should be focused on, and it's him. Roderick Strong will learn that the hard way if he doesn't start putting respect on the name of Adam Pearce. So again, just another way to continue the introduction of Adam Pearce with somebody who, like I said, is fairly well established. An okay main event sees D'Angelo Dinero defeat Hernandez in 11 minutes and 3 seconds with a DDE. Hernandez presenting a little bit of a different challenge to what he might be used to, a powerhouse wrestler, but Dinero with a solid 68, advancing the Evolve Wrestling Championship and getting the crowd buzzing for a good way to end this week's show. Of course, that doesn't necessarily do anything in terms of the build to Genesis. We're continuing to tick along, and I think Evolve is getting its own identity now. Part of it being the people who aren't being used so much on Impact Wrestling, but also slowly introducing new people, as well as having that Evolve Wrestling title at the top, which I think is always good for having these open challenge type matches with a title. I think it's always good to have that for what is essentially a TV title. Hannah Blossom gone. I'm pretty sure 52,000 is no different to what we got in the previous week, so it didn't really make much of a difference. Chris Hero bringing the storyline, I suppose, backstage, as he says that Eddie Edwards is a waste of time. Absolute nonsense from Chris Hero, to be fair, and another good rating for the TV show. A few contracts that I'm kind of undecided on what to do, although with losing Matt Morgan, I think Hernandez and Abyss, we're kind of losing that dynamic of having some big guys on the roster, so 3 people, including Christy Hemme, still thinking about where they lie in the future of the company. But I am just going to look how this Evolve did compared to the other ones: 52,000, 45,000, 49,000, and that one was the last one that was still on TV, so has a ridiculously high amount of viewers. But overall, it did have a little bit of a difference, albeit not massive. Of course, that's of minor importance compared to what is coming up in 2 days from Friday. Genesis 2012, the first pay-per-view in Impact Wrestling history. A great card that we've put together. I think AJ Styles versus Austin Aries, Hamada versus Sarita, and Kevin Steen and Poland versus the Motor City Machine Guns are 3 really good matches to supplement the big title bouts we have on that card. CM Punk versus Sting is going to be huge, and this pay-per-view probably will have a different feel to the other pay-per-views coming forward, because it's one that's straight after that hard reset, so we've not necessarily got the rankings built up or people who have earned title shots, you could say. I'd say that most of them have, but in terms of Sting, he's not wrestled, but he's getting a title shot, but it's because of the story that's inbuilt with them. Hopefully everybody's enjoyed this first month of Impact Wrestling and the build to this pay-per-view, and are looking forward to joining me next time. Thank you for watching this show. Hopefully you'll want to come back next time, and yeah, I'll see you for Impact Wrestling Genesis 2012.